What's up, everybody, from Indianapolis here at the NFL Combine? I'm Dom Tibbetts. That's Bills General Manager Brandon Beane here. New role for you this year, President of Football Operations, but you've also preached so much that we've talked to you over the past couple of weeks, the collaboration, the alignment with Joe, the rest of the staff. So I guess walk me through what changes, if anything, and how your new role kind of dictates how this organization moves forward in the draft.
Yeah, it's really nothing's really changing. Joe and I think it's very important that the head coach and the GM are collaborative and having that, starts there and making sure the people that we all work with, everybody understands the assignment, and it's really that's where the collaboration, the alignment, communication, all that it happens, and so you shouldn't see anything any different. We're working together now to. Obviously, there's been some staff changes beyond just Joe and how we're going to do things. And so we're just trying to get on the same page of that and making sure we're all seeing through the same lens of how this player fits, how that player fits, as we make decisions to prepare for, this upcoming free agency and the draft, in a couple months.
I go back to when Joe was introduced as head coach, and he talked about wanting to put the right guys around him. A first-time head coach, you're not going to get experience as a head coach without becoming a head coach. So now that the staff is situated, you bring a guy like, first name comes up is like John Fox, right? But you have Pete Carmichael and Jim Leonard defensively. How do you feel like the staff is assembled, and does that put you in the right position, you feel like, organizationally, to take that next step?
I think Joe's done a great job with the staff. I mean, I was telling someone earlier, like, it's one thing to have a plan. You interview with a plan of how you're going to build your team, and it starts as a head coach with who your coaches are going to be. And so he had some very good names, and he's been able to land some of those here. And John Fox, who's been a 16-year NFL head coach, there's no substitution for sitting in these seats. And that's something that Joe mentioned right away, and I was able to connect them, and that was a fit pretty quickly. John's coached in a couple Super Bowls, so there's probably not a lot that John hasn't seen that Joe can't walk down the hall and ask him about. And then Pete Carmichael, we've tried to get him here before in various roles, and my time in Carolina, Pete was down there with Sean Payton, who's a Hall of Fame head coach, and those were always tough offenses to go against. So it's been fun to have some conversations with Pete and how he sees things and how he sees the game. And Jim Leonard, who obviously played in Buffalo and had success at Wisconsin, came to the NFL. Man, the guy's he's just like calm, confident, got a little swagger to him as you guys have been around. So I think the players will enjoy all these guys and the different experiences that they can bring as we start this 2026 Bills.
So much of this week, Brandon, is going to be on the draft, and that's the focus here for you guys, but also it's the offseason as you get ready for the free agency that comes up in a couple of weeks here. You restructure Spencer Brown today, saves you a little over $10 million or so, but then you've also got some guys like Connor McGovern, David Edwards, who kind of jump to the forefront of those roster decisions you have to make. Without getting into the specifics that I know you can't, where does this organization lie right now as it comes to the free agency side of the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is how much money can we create? If you save this player, that might cost you a player in free agency, or if you say, you know what, I'm going to move on. So those are some of the discussions we're still having with the new coaches and how they see it. And sometimes it can be as much as I like that player, but I don't know if I'll use him the way he was used before. I know you're paying him X number of dollars, so I just want you to know his playtime might cut in half if you need to move on. I understand. So those things will continue. We know, we got a couple weeks left before free agency starts, and so those decisions will happen at the right time.
You've been asked about it a lot, even today. And I'm going to ask you again. The wide receiver position is going to continue to be talked about until eventually maybe you guys address this, whether it's in the draft or free agency. But you also have other needs of positions around this roster to eventually get over that proverbial playoff wall that you guys have talked about. So I guess where does the balance lie in terms of finding the right guys in those positions as it pertains to finding guys in the draft or finding guys in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll take as many number one wide receivers as you can find. How do you get them? Like, where do you acquire them? Whether it's in the draft or free agency or trade or whatever it is. But you're right. Yeah, if you do that, where does it leave holes? If you pay a guy 25 mil, I'm just making up a number, 25 million, whatever it is. Where does that leave? We got to make sure we can protect Josh Allen. We got to make sure we got a great running back. We got to make sure we can continue to have success there. And then sometimes helping Josh Allen can be someone on defense. But it can, this year we weren't as good stopping the run, and so that's that keeps Josh Allen on the sidelines because the clock's running, the other team's possessing the ball, and so we just have to make sure we do as many things as we can to score as many points as we can. And if that's a receiver, great. I'd love to have him. But if sometimes it can be a defensive player helping get the ball back to Josh, or again maybe it's an O lineman that we need to replace if we were to lose one of these guys.
Hello from Indianapolis, everybody, home of the NFL Combine. I'm Dom Tibbetts. That's Bills head coach Joe Brady joining me here. The past couple of weeks, we have talked to you taking over this job. You've got your coordinators. You're here in Indianapolis now. Does it feel like the honeymoon phase of getting this new job is over now, or is it always from day one getting ready for this moment?
Yeah, I don't think there ever is a honeymoon phase, right? It's you as soon as you find out you got the job, it's like, all right, now let's get to work. Let's put together a staff. Let's call the players, right? And I don't think there ever really is a second to kind of take a second, right? But there's no complaints from my perspective.
So you get here this week. A lot of it's evaluation, looking at multiple prospects. How do you go about this in your new role now? You've had such an offensive background, but you have to see this as more holistically approach. I guess what are changes in the approach getting here to Indianapolis?
Well, I think, look, obviously I've been sitting in all the offensive meetings for these years, right? But I've also gone against all these defensive players, right? So I understand some of the skill sets that give us issues on offense, right? And now I just get an opportunity to kind of see their personalities and sit in the interviews and see kind of how much they love ball or they talk ball, and it's different from an offensive line and a defensive line, a receiver and a DB, and so that's been a unique perspective that I've enjoyed.
On the defensive side, you put a lot of trust in the Jim, knowing the skill set he brings now as your new defensive coordinator. I'm just curious is how much control of this process, or how much of his evaluation of some of these prospects weighs in on your mind, knowing that he has more of that background and knowing that he's on your staff for that reason?
Yeah, look, I believe in ownership, and there's a reason that the guys that are on our staff, right? And Jim's played at such a high level, he's coached at a high level, and he's going to continue to do that. And so, he's going to be a guy I lean on defensively. And look, I've had a lot of fun just sitting in the defensive staff meetings and learning our defense and talking personnel and seeing what they look for, and so that I'm just an extension of him. But the way that we do things here there's such a collaborative approach, and it's been rewarding so far, and I'm excited to keep rolling with it.
My last one for you, Joe, is just holistically, when it comes to the draft, free agency, getting ready for this new season, I'm just curious is how do you begin to balance or analyze the different things that this team needs, that the roster needs, and bringing in new talent, whether that be from the draft, you have young guys, or exploring the free agency market? How does that begin to balance for you now, knowing this responsibility falls on you and Brandon's shoulders?
Yeah, I think that part of the process was, hey, let's bring in a staff and let's get their perspective as well, right? Because I've been here, and now that they kind of watch the tape and evaluate the players and see what they think as well, right? And so that's what's been really cool is we've got a lot of different eyes on our building, a lot of new eyes on our roster, kind of giving thoughts in direction that we think we can go moving forward, and so many positive vibes, and I'm happy with the direction that we're rolling.
I'm looking forward to it, Joe. Thank you for your time. That's Joe Brady. I'm Dom Tibbetts. We're here at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis.